Welcome to my channel. My name's Jared. This is another Sunday update video. I also post silent build videos on Wednesdays, so be sure to check those out as well. Today, we're going to talk about the 356. We're going to talk about the brakes and all the other stuff that got done. So, if you saw my last build video, you would have seen me worked on the brakes. Also worked on the shifter, rod, and several other things. So, anyway, the front brakes were pretty straightforward. These are the calipers that were on the car when I got it. I took them apart, cleaned them up, sprayed them real quick just so they kind of matched the back ones. And that was no big deal. They rebuilt just fine. I got them back on, checked the bearings in the hub, re-greased everything. This all went pretty smoothly. Brake lines went on no problem. The master cylinder wasn't really a big issue to get in. I am using the original single feed, I guess you could call it, master cylinder. A lot of people recommend that you upgrade to a dual feed. That way if you have a failure, the dual feed, I don't know if that's the correct term for it, but the dual cylinder has one chamber that runs the front brakes and one that runs the rear brakes. So if one of them loses fluid, you still have the other one. So obviously a much safer system than this one. But I had already bought the original master cylinder. I've had it for a long time. I bought it when I first bought the car and I stuck with it, and so we'll see, maybe down the road I'll decide to change it out, but for now that's what it is. It's original. It's as it was when the car was made. I also replaced this steering coupler. Now this is a modified version. It uses this kind of standard 356 coupler. I mentioned in my previous video that the coupler for this particular car, the correct one, is much more expensive, but it's also more prone to fail, and when it fails completely. So this is a better option. It's actually, this kit was still more expensive than just the coupler, so it was actually kind of approaching what it would have cost for the original style, but this seems to be a much better and safer style setup. So I switched to that. Got a battery and a ground cable because we're getting very close to actually getting this thing back on the road. But yeah, so that's what's going on up front. The back was much more complicated. I mentioned in my last update video that I was waiting on some little clips to hold the drum brakes, the drum shoes that go inside of this part of the rotor. So like I mentioned, this is a disc brake out here, but it's a drum brake inside this section. So I got those clips. That took a little while, but I got them. They went in fine. That wasn't that big of an issue. But there were other issues with just kind of this design. I've worked on the 912, my 912, and even like I had a 71 911. So I'm familiar with the rear brakes on both the 912 and the early 911s, and they're much better laid out than this. This is just not a very good layout. They probably were just kind of trying to make these parts work on this car, even though these were designed for the 912 and 911. But anyway, the issue is everything interferes with this swing arm here. So there's an order that you have to do things, like even these little rods that hold the brake shoes in, you can't fit those in once this caliper is mounted because there's not enough room because of this. Same thing with this brake line. You can't put this on after the caliper's bolted on. So there's an order where you have to do all these things, and so it took me several tries to kind of get everything on correctly. And also you have a hard line that goes from here to back there, which means that you can't pull this caliper off to replace the rotor without bleeding the whole system and having to go through all of that hassle. So not a good design, and they updated it later, and that's why the 912 and 911s are better. At least easier to work on. But anyway, I figured it out. It just took a little doing. So that all came out fine. One other thing that's happened since my last update video was that the transmission, or transaxle, whatever you want to call it, once I put the fluid in it, it was leaking. It was leaking from where these boots, the plate that kind of bolts onto the transmission here. So I drained the fluid, took those off, cleaned them up really well, put some gasket sealer on both sides of that seal, put it back together, and that seems to have fixed it. But I believe, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a plate. So this was leaking, this black part. And I fixed that, but now this outer plate here that you can kind of see here, that bolts on right there, I believe that plate might be leaking as well. and that plate is kind of pressed on. I had to kind of tap it on to the bearing and to the differential housing. So I can't take that off very easily. It's not a bad leak. There's a few drops over about a week's time. So I've snugged it up a little. If that doesn't fix it, then I may have to address it later. But I still don't know. Some of you may have noticed in the comments, people were asking, how did I set the shims and things for that differential? How did I set the tolerances? And the answer is I didn't. I don't have the tools needed to take the measurements to determine the size shims that I would need to have that pinion gear and ring gear perfectly spaced like they're supposed to be. My understanding is if they're not perfectly gapped, then it leads to more noise and they wear out faster. So it's not an issue of it doesn't run and it causes huge problems. It'll cause them to be noisy, the transmission to be noisy, and it'll cause them to wear out faster. Not good things, but not the end of the world. So what I did was I kept the original shims in their original locations. I didn't move them around. I made sure they went right back where they were. And I'm just hoping for the best. The differential I put in is different. The housing is different than the one that was in it. So it could definitely be off slightly from what it was. But the shims are correct and the case is the same. And so I'm hoping that it's going to be fine. So with that said, I'm leaving the leak as it is for now. Like I said, very, very slow leak, because if this turns out to be a noisy transmission and I have to pull that differential out to make adjustments, then I can fix the leak at that time. And it is, I believe, possible to take the differential out without removing the transmission if I decided to do that. So we'll see. Anyway, those are some unknowns, but we're moving forward as is. None of that is anything that would prevent us from driving the car. And of course, those of you who have restored cars or rebuilt cars like this probably know, as soon as you get it on the road, you're going to find lots and lots of other issues. So I'm going to keep moving forward, and then once I drive it, I'll find out what all the other issues are that need to be addressed, and then I'll start taking care of them at that time. But here we are, making good progress, and the next video on this car is going to be the engine being assembled. So we're moving right along, making good progress, and this thing should be back on the road very soon. So that's all for this week, guys. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing.